Welcome to Desk Session, Carl DeGregorio's Desk Session number 36. My branding and my up top intro, I have fumbled, but I'm going to keep going. I'm a little jazzed today. I don't know why. I guess because I'm on the tail end of recovering from this tendon injury in my ankle/foot, and I have a hard time walking distances in street shoes, but I'm doing okay in the house without assistance. So it's starting to feel like I'm seeing light at the end of the tunnel. And so that would give me the theme of healing, that we're able to heal, that we're able to bounce back. Things being what they are, aging, etc. There are inevitabilities, I suppose, but they can be hastened. They can be delayed. They can be certainly you lose something off your fastball, but you don't have to capitulate to the wisdom or the lack of wisdom or the lack of you just don't have to succumb to the banal inevitabilities. I mean, you have to succumb. You won't have a choice, but I don't think you have to. I think in a way, you have to catch yourself. You have to avoid being the get off my lawn guy. And that's up to you. It's hard. It happens to me all the time. You know, neighbor noise, high combustion exhaust, aftermarket exhaust pipes that make extra noise. That shit drives me batshit. But I think it did as a kid because I vaguely... and not so vaguely remember the horn of a ferry boat scaring the living fucking shit out of me, and the engine of a large truck firing next to me, because when you're on a ferry boat, you're standing next to it. I remember vividly losing my shit. So some of it is get off my lawn for sure, but other things I think I'm just I was sensitive to abrupt, loud noise. I think we all are. It's called the jump scare, right? That's really what I was reacting to, and now I'm probably amorphizing. Is that the word I'm looking for? I'm probably adding meaning to some kind of trauma when it's really just they were jump scares, and I wasn't aware of where they were coming from. So, but what I mean to say is you have to, much like Dylan Thomas said, you don't go quietly into that good night. And hopefully, that's a long way away, and I don't want to sound fatalistic today, but my point being is I can't concede just yet. And so I guess I'm energizing myself, inner resource, or taking this blip on my screen and the ability to have maintained and even thrived in it, and seen the silver lining, getting a little pause for the cause from my work and things like that, and being able to pour more into this and pour more into my writing and pour more into my auditions. It's been quite a pleasant work life part of my existence, even though I wasn't able to hit the streets on foot. But I do have physical therapy, and it's all starting to understand that these are the things I need. And so I guess I'm going to have to start engineering a different lifestyle, because I do like being able to kind of calm down and do dinner time and maybe get off the nocturnal thing. So we'll see. And I'm not without anxiety. That's the other issue, is when people tell you they're doing great, or with their efforts to be different, their efforts to be mentally healthy, all that stuff is like, I'm not without anxiety about the fact that this sort of pause for the cause is coming to an end, and I haven't secured a different trajectory yet. And you just don't know. I could have gone to the doctor after 4 weeks, and she would have said you're good. I could, or I could have, there's so many coulda, shouldas, and but I have plenty of anxiety. It's just that I think maybe the misunderstanding, and what I've been kind of trying to figure out about myself, is disappointment is sometimes because of expectation. I think I've talked about that, but I guess it's just a matter of I can't believe it's not for everybody, but everybody suffers some kind of anxiety, I think. So I think I was misinterpreting sometimes general anxiety as a condition, which was probably an unrealistic utopian take on how things were quote unquote supposed to be. And I think what actually happens is that I had so many ideal things going for me that things that are blips for some people were catastrophic to me, to be honest with you. And I guess you can't escape the colossal stuff, but I guess I just misinterpreted or had been so sheltered because of the grace of my good fortune and my family and my parents and where I grew up and things like that, and the fact that I did okay academically and things like that. I think I misinterpreted natural setbacks as this is not supposed to happen. I think that's really what happens when people snap over minor things. And I guess what happened in my life is working in customer service, which is, a particular hell all of its own. Is you don't get mad, you get like, wow, dude, I want your life. If this is enough to get you pissed off that, that the Coke is flat and you're losing your shit, you're a fucking wreck, So I guess I have to recognize that in me too sometimes, don't let the fucking cable go out while I'm in the middle of watching something. That the fucked up thing about today is when you're watching something, likely it's on a streamer, so it's like cached, it's in an inert digital existence. You can press pause, you don't have to miss shit because you go to the John, and yet when the cable goes out, I'm pissed off as if I'm missing something that I'm just going to queue back up. But so I'm saying that I have not come full circle to where little things don't piss me off. And maybe that's even more, maybe that's better. You flip out about little shit so that the big stuff, I don't know. That's where you can see evidence of a little bit of a misguidedness or sort of a gap in some of your resiliencies, or, when you flip out about little shit, but the big stuff sort of, you get calm and placid. I've noticed that somewhat in my own life, where I can be calm in a catastrophe, but I can make a catastrophe out of a butter knife getting a hair on it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what happens. And I am in a transition, as we all are at any given time. You transition from indoor to outdoor. You transition from horizontal to vertical. You transition from asleep to wake. You transition from hungry to fed. So I guess being afraid of these things is just is anxiety, which they say is over concern for the future as opposed to being in the present, and then depression being over concern with the past. And I know a lot about that. So we're working and we're doing good, and there is an energy. And I think some of the cognitive stuff that I've been working on is if you recognize things as energy versus a labeled emotion or a labeled lament or a labeled dysfunction, if you just feel things as energy, then language is only going to help you decipher the energy. But anxiety could be excitement. Anxiety could be latent rage. Anxiety could be, that could it be that something's coming, like it'll be there, like something's coming, I don't know what it is. That's could be the way the energy came out. And again, this is all just sort of reasserting my my hopes and dreams for the arts, because somehow a musician and a composer and a lyricist came up with like that could be a way to express an inner, and if you listen to the words of that song, it is talking about something's coming, I don't know, but I know it's gonna be great. I mean, that's that could also be the anxiety you get. Whether I go back to my job or I just don't, or try to find something else, or take, that could be exciting too. And I think people talk about non-negotiables, and they talk about pet peeves and all that stuff, which last week I spoke about control freaky stuff and how that's folly. But it's, I guess, if you can just sort of find a way to make it energy, and I guess what I need to do in this case, in many cases, is to give myself a bit of grace, because my creativity sometimes can spin into insane sort of predictions, or doomsdaying, doing a doomsday flow chart of how catastrophic things can get. And I very seldom, if I'm being honest, and I'm doing better, but I'd venture to ask anyone listening, and this would be a good indicator, do you ever doomsday, do you ever game theory the positives? And because so often we're told, shut up and just do the work, and that's probably good advice too. But if you're a ruminator, which is just a planned process, I've done a couple of I think it's Bristol Myers. I've done 2 of those diagnostic personality types, and rumination is not one of the categories on either of them, but strategic planning and study and planning is one of my traits, and being an ENFJ in one of them is, a lot of time pondering. And so I can't, obviously you can be an actuator. That was another one on the, I think that was the Gallup test I took. So it just takes me a long time, but I do find myself, once I get activated, it's I'm a dog with a bone, but it does take me a while. But just in the realm of decision making, I often game theory, or whatever they call it, potential disasters as opposed to potential triumphs. And that's a mindset that can probably set you up to not be pulling in the right kind of mojo at very least. So I have to remember that energy, that anxiety might just be knowing something good is on the horizon, and maybe embracing that, because I've shunned some blessings. I know maybe not everybody has. Some people are very good at taking cues and taking opportunity. I've stifled a lot of that, and I'm no longer okay with having done that. And so, it's just, I have to be prepared for some good things. And that may take some, they say be prepared. I mean, why would you nest a nursery for the anticipated arrival of a child? That's anticipating a positive. And I guess it does get harder for people who get late in life without children. Like, you don't get to really pour hopes into the future of your offspring because you don't have any. And that, I'm not saying that in any kind of woe, although it's a bummer, but you get to be the person that you're nurturing, and you have to make a quote unquote a place for your success. And I guess that's where I'm at, and that's maybe why I'm a little hyped up today and fired up, and can't even really tell you why. I guess if I've ever prepared anything, and I don't, I just write a post-it here and there, but I'm flowing pretty well right now, so I can transition here into a lot of minor things can be not. I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I just wanted to be observant to a moment that occurred in public the other day. I think I've obviously spent a little more time alone, but I'm, very social person and have always been. And I find that no matter the age I've been at, that it's been a sort of drive of mine, which belies, when I was younger, it belied my age. And now that I'm older, it may be that sort of cynical Geico commercial where they mock those guys who want to like talk to the guy at the butcher shop or the chatty guy in the hardware store. I'm that guy, but I was that kid too. I was the annoying kid. If I would go to a friend's house and we're supposed to make a beeline for the basement, right, in suburbia. You just and I would always sit and sometimes I'd talk to the parents and. My friends would be like, can you just shut the fuck up and not make a whole meal out of talking to my parents or my mom? And I enjoyed that. And so that was a youngster being social. So I've not stopped that. And I was at I guess like a deli kind of thing, like a hot case kind of situation. I was ordering some wings. Shout out to my nephew and the Publix wings. Those are the fucking best down in Florida. But I like wings, and this place has good wings when they're of a particular variety, more the buffalo style ones. And while I'm waiting for the dude who's a little surly, and I have very much empathy and sympathy for not loving a chatty guest when you're not in the mood, but this guy's never in the mood, and I'm surly enough, but I'm sometimes in the mood, you know what I mean? And then you have this thing go, well, I'm one of the good ones, and people don't have time to decipher that, and people are working hard, and it's, but I am a fan of these wings, and they're not in a restaurant, they're not a restaurant style. So as the guy's preparing my wings, I said, have you tried these yourself? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, low key, they're really good, aren't they? And some fucking out of nowhere motherfucker who's not even waiting in line, not next to me, hasn't said shit to me. He's on like overhearing this. He leans in and he interrupts and he says, low key, you're too old to say low key. That's my 13-year-old. My 13-year-old talks like that. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I just kind of went back to my business and I laughed or whatever. I was perturbed, but I didn't. It was no need to get surly about it, but I was just not with it. And my girlfriend was like, boy, you really shut him down quick. And maybe that's a New Jersey thing because, we just don't, people just don't fuck around. And if you don't dig it, you just, yeah. Maybe I did do that. I'll concede to maybe being less than playing ball, and I'm judging the guy behind the deli counter for not wanting to play ball with me. But it was the idea that he heard a phrase, low key, which, yes, is a very youthful phrase. And I'm not trying to be hip dude, older dude, but it kind of bugged me. And I tried to explain to my girlfriend that I wasn't being a dick. And if anybody, it was a no harm, no foul thing, but if anybody was being a dick, and maybe dick is too big a leap, but the idea that there's what most people don't know about slang, numbnuts, this guy, and I don't know, maybe I never said low key, but not for nothing is a synonym, if you will, to low key. But not for nothing is an East Coast thing. It's kind of a street guy thing. But not for nothing, those wings are really good. If I said that, would he have said shit? He probably has never heard the not for nothing. I wasn't raised to talk like that. But as I got into New York, and like that's what low key means, right? It means on the DL or not on the DL, but it means like contrary to popular belief, those are good wings here. Low key just means, on the low, or it just means not for nothing is what it really means. And so when you are scolded by someone who's projecting onto you that you're too old to talk like a hipster or a young kid, I guess, but some of these things even come back around. Fresh was my shit, and now Fresh was like around, and I think it's gone now, but like Fresh came back. Dope hasn't left. Dope started in my era, And like I said, a lot of times they're what's the word I'm looking for? They are modular, and they get stuck in, and they all mean the same fucking thing, you know? And many times, things like side hustle or side gig or side hustle, like a lot of stuff comes from hip hop, you know? And there's always that thing in hip hop. Does the street inform the music, or does the music inform the street? And, you know, we could go back and forth on that, and that really isn't my place to weigh in. But a lot of these things then get quote unquote co-opted by Sprite or by, you know, the gig economy. So, you know, now side hustle is something. And so suburbia hears this shit and they regurgitate it. But then it's usually youth that does it. So this guy's telling me I'm too out of touch, too old. And, you know, that's a really kind of good example just in the micro and in a very benign way to understand maybe the concept of projecting. He's projecting. And I don't know how far this played out, but I do think his wife was like, he doesn't want to play, basically. And she said, let's go. So obviously he's feeling unrequited in his socializing, or thought he was being cute and his opener was bad. I don't know. But it affected me enough to bring it up today and to just sort of, you know, I guess this would be, you know, in the line of some of that Dale Carnegie stuff, which I may not know, or like Toastmasters, where they, you know, a lot of are these pickup artists, like they talk about openers and they talk about a set and things like that. And I guess intrinsically I've done some of this stuff. And the idea is like in vis-a-vis like interacting, sales, or how to win friends and influence people, right? That whole thing. He maybe just thought he was trying to ingratiate, and he just picked a weird opener. And I'm sensitive, you know. I guess I don't get tagged as sensitive because I'm a large guy and I speak, you know, I don't know. I protect myself with some of my attitudes and physicality, and like, don't fuck with me. That's just the thing. But really, it's just sensitive. So if you fuck with me and say things that are, I'm going to react internally like, oh, man, you know. And I just didn't understand why. Low key, I didn't understand why this motherfucker, you know, kind of took umbrage. It wasn't like I was saying on fleek or, you know. And like I said, you can update your jargon. Now, I fancy myself a person who, you know, would be a coiner of phrase, not a regurgitator of phrase. And so, low key, I'm really blanking on what that fucking really means, but not for nothing is really what comes to mind. And, you know, or you'd be surprised. I mean, I guess you have to, at a certain age, you have to just start talking, you know, and literally you'd be surprised how good these wings are. Most people don't know. Conventional wisdom says these wouldn't be good wings, but these are. Or you could say low key. It's, you know, I don't know where it got into my mouth or got into my head, but I just think it's, I think it, you know, like I said, it's a variation. And so I guess I'm just venting the idea that we're all falling steps behind in socializing, and you know, people make many assumptions, and I try not to. I guess we all do, but I try not to. You don't, you know, my girlfriend has this incredible habit of being nice to everybody, obviously, but she also has this, like, she's in sales, let's say, and, you know, she'll ask somebody online at the store, you know, you looking to buy, you know, or whatever, or you interested in this, and they, you know, you might assume that cashier doesn't have money, but then, you know, she'll get into a conversation, find out, you know what, I just I inherited, like, you don't know anybody's circumstance. And some people are those rare people who understand keeping an income coming, and they may just be working a job for the health benefits, or they may just be working a job because why leave X amount of dollars per annual on the table, you know, or it's better to have income than outflow, you know, and you just don't know. You could be talking to the nephew of the owner or the son of the owner. You just don't know. And I guess that's also part of why it was very benign. And, this is what passes as a topic today. But I guess I also was maybe triggered by him being, I guess you lose perspective on, you feel like the kid inside always. And so maybe the idea that he was bonding with me and I thought he might have had 5-10 years on me and then telling me I can't talk like that, maybe that's what was the trigger. And you can't go around being that sensitive, so I'm aware. And I swear up, only because my girlfriend knows me did I think she even caught on that I was fucking perturbed. It was really just more the like, was I talking to you? That's the, if we were in New Jersey, it's like, was I fucking talking to you? Like, that's the answer no matter what, how nice it. I mean, sometimes even a compliment unsolicited and that he interrupted, as if the conversation between, store customer and employee were less important than him getting this off his chest. There was a lot baked into the cake of him interrupting. And I guess the compassionate take is, maybe he's lonely, maybe he wants to bond, but it was just, to me, it was just bizarre of all the things, I've had, in that same store, I was in a boot. So I've had the interaction where the guy, I said, excuse me. And the guy goes, no, you're the one in a boot. Let me get out of your way. Like those micro moments, those are good for your mood. And so there's plenty of examples of things going right, but I'm just saying, and nothing really went wrong. I was just I had a moment with that. And it also reminds me of moments on the street or in road rage incidents that before you get too twisted in your own self, you have to remember that everybody's the center of their own universe. But sometimes, just sometimes, that's why I like the idea of the Rashomon template, right? Rashomon, I'd never seen the whole thing, but it's a Kurosawa film, and it's overrated in terms of every cinephile, every film school kid. Maybe it's finally been retired as the DeGregorio film, filmmaker, director you have to respect. I know Scorsese loves Kurosawa, but the Rashomon template is there's 3 sides to every story, right? And so you're honking at somebody because they're an asshole because they cut you off or they're going slow. Now, most of the time you're right. You get around them and you see they were on their fucking phone driving slow because they can't, and I think you should pull over if you don't know where the fuck you're going, or go around the block rather than just slowly trying to see where, there's a million examples of people being selfish with their agendas on the road, but there's occasionally a time where you gambled and you jumped out, or you, they were in your blind spot and I've been honked at and you swerve out. So like you've been the fucking quote unquote dick to the person in the other car. So that the other side of the story is if that person were to hold on to it for a long time, you'd be the villain in their story. And none of us like to see ourselves as that. But sometimes, and I don't want to spend any time feeling sad. You get that rush. Oh, fuck, I didn't see him. And then I'm more freaked out that I didn't, that I almost caused an accident. Not that I was, the asshole. But at the same time, there's always a chance you could be the guy. So when I examine that story in public, was I being a dick? Maybe. Was he being a dick? Maybe. Was he just trying to be funny and he just wasn't? Maybe. Yeah. And it's a no harm, no foul situation. But another event happened in my orthopedic hospital area. And I have an ankle brace now. It's more like an air cast. And I had just worked out in the therapy. And it's getting more intense because I'm healing, right? And they were so busy because they're busy on Mondays or Wednesdays. I don't know. They're busy all the time. And my physical therapist always has double, triple booking. So he's like, you do this while I do that, and you do this and I'll do that. and you're left on your own. But they ran out of ice because I didn't get my ice. And mostly what I need the ice pack for is 10 minutes of recovery before I like have to walk back to the car, and I just need a minute to gather. And they ran out of ice packs. Like, they just were so heavy that everybody took them up on it, so they didn't have any ice packs. I was like, well, fuck it, screw it. So I was a little dipped out, I was a little tired, and the elevator came, and it's a 3-bank of elevators, and I stand in the middle to hedge my bets. And you play that racing sausage game that they do in baseball games. You pick a sausage and you root for the sausage, or in Yankee Stadium it's the A, B, or C train you pick. And you just sit there and you cheer on the one you picked, and whatever. So I do that with the elevator, and all the way right came. And I know you're supposed to, it's the old subway thing: step aside, let them off. But see, at least in New York, you're constantly reminded to let them off. Like the guys in the MTA guys, like, let them off, step to the side, let them off. And so like the courteous thing to do is reasserted. You see what I'm saying? Which people think might be harsh about New York, but it bears reminding, because when the elevator came, I was a little tired, a little behind the 8 ball, and it was going down, and there was a floor above. I rushed to the car, and because there was a wall where I would normally step to the right to let people out, I kind of beelined into, like, skip in to the panel of buttons, and I thought I was holding up the rest of the people going down, but there were people coming off, but they were hobbled just like I was. And the guy said, "Can we get off? Can you let us off, please?" But it was too late, because I had committed, and I am physically less able to stop and start, and I couldn't just wheel out of the way and get back out because there was a wall there. And I fucked up, and I just kind of tripped, and I guess I kicked the guy's toe, and he went bonkers. He was like, "You stubbed my toe." And he's like, some people. And he was just, and I was like, "I apologize, man. I'm sorry." And I rode down with the rest of the people, and nobody was like mad at me except for that guy. And he, and I'm just imagining him dining out on his complaint in the lobby. You would never believe what happened to me. And so he doesn't even know that it was an honest mistake, but I was the culprit. And, I guess if we get these little blinks at those moments, he's right. There was this big dude who said, "Fuck y'all, I'm getting on the elevator. I'm not following protocol, social contract." He's right. But what he doesn't know is that I'm banged up. I was trying to be courteous because I wasn't able to get to the elevator as quickly as I would, because you don't know with a 3 guests, and I'm slower because I didn't get my ice. So all of this is in the hopper that in the Rashomon story, or the beauty of storytelling is, you've seen sometimes where they will take characters and they'll say, "Carl," and they go 10 minutes before, and you'll see, "We're out of ice," and he's like, "Fuck." And then, then his day, these sliding doors literally become, a device for storytelling. And I think the reason I'm attracted to storytelling and narratives, right, which is another loaded word I don't want to discuss, is I think that's why that is the last bastion of the human thing, is that if you use narrative, it helps you see yourself as, a hero or a villain or whatever. Most people don't identify with the villain, but as an actor, you play the villain as the hero in ways. The most brazen example would be Les Miserables, right? Jean Valjean stole bread. He did steal bread, but he stole bread because he was hungry. And Javert is sworn to uphold the law, and they fucking have opposing viewpoints, but the audience knows that Javert is the antagonist and Valjean is the hero. But I guess where that show mingles, where the nuance comes, is that an act of kindness from Valjean throws Javert into despair, because you shouldn't be, I've been hunting this motherfucker and he showed me kindness. My whole worldview is, and that's what absolutes, and that's where I have to say, maybe I wasn't a dick on purpose, and that's the truth. But I have been the cause of other people's unhappiness. And I think what happens is when people get rigid, they think that they've never been on they only see themselves as on the receiving end of this stuff. And that's a bad place. We've all kind of been, if with my luck, that kind of thing. If you start doing that song, you're going to hear that melody. And I just have to remember, and also, who gives a flying fuck? This guy was a bit, and here's the thing, in New York, New Jersey, you might double down. Yeah, I stepped on your foot, you fucking slow motherfucker. How about you get the fuck out of the elevator? It's not a fucking prom. Just get off, Like, that's the problem with a lot of these moments in our lives, is we double down on the being an asshole, or we double down on what they could have done to change the situation and what I could have done. And my brother did ask me a question. He goes, what could, it was a good question. What could you have said? What could you have said that maybe would have smoothed this whole thing over? And I said, I couldn't think of anything. I think the entire macro of the problem with this is it's an orthopedic building. Like, it's where everybody goes for physical therapy. Everybody's coming in with oxygen tanks and fucking crutches, and still it's not like you're quiet in a fucking library. So why wouldn't you be just a little slower, a little less dickish in an orthopedic building, knowing that on and off the elevators there's going to be people on crutches, and people are so, and myself included, people are so, like, I probably had the ear pods on, which then creates a cocoon of neglect to the world around you, which is dangerous. It could have been that too. But, Christ, I said, so I had been thinking about it when he asked me, what could you have said? And all I could think were jokes to bust his fucking balls. I was like, yeah, this is your Vietnam, you fucking jerk off. Like, I was just only thinking about ways, I told you I was sorry. How many ways can I apologize? I just couldn't pump the brakes because I'm also hurt too. Like, the idea that he's he's going to physical therapy, so the people getting on might be coming from it. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that was the best we could kind of come up with was, boy, it's going to be great one day when we don't have to, when we have control of our bodies again, or when we're all healed up, and obviously he's dinged up, and I'm a big guy, so if I came down on his toe, I might have fucked him up. I don't know. And the thing is, I guess I'm sensitive enough that these are minor fucking, it's not like I got jacked or I got rolled up on or victimized, or I had to confront somebody in a fight scenario. These are, I guess, micro moments. You hear about microaggressions and and so, and I've always said, with the microaggression, how about a micro reaction? Like, what the fuck are we supposed to do here? I didn't mean it. Sorry, I said landlord and I said him. Fuck. Oh, fuck. I didn't mean to assume your landlord was a fucking dude, that stuff happens. And I guess we're more sensitive, but I think we're also more isolated, so that we also, you have to remember that sometimes, have you ever broken up with somebody, Maybe mostly all tell the story, oh, I got my heart broken. Yeah. Did you ever do it to anybody else? Did you ever do that? And so, not that you didn't have the right to be happy or didn't have the right to break up with her, but you can't then go around saying that you're only ever the one that, I don't know. I just have a hard time believing that we're ever only the virtuous. And also, like, who gives a fuck? Like, it's almost progress that occasionally words got back to me that people that, because they don't understand the situation, that, that people think I'm a hard ass or something. And that used to be like, if I heard anything other than he's awesome, that would drive me crazy. And I try to fix the impression. And, later for that, low key, I don't give a shit anymore. And I'll say I'm sorry when I need to, but I won't say it all the fucking time. And I'll kind of end on this. Many years ago, it was a good time, man. We were lucky to grow up where we did, and my brother and his wife brought the. I think he was the only one. Maybe he had two at the time, maybe not three. He definitely had two. But my nephew was the oldest, and so he was active, and we went to the Big Apple Circus, and it was great because it's a fond memory of family all being together and doing things, and then the next generation. It was great. But my nephew was rambunctious like kids are, and I don't know how to keep that under control, And he was just kind of making contact with the seat in front of him, and I was really concerned with how much that would fuck up the person sitting there, and it's a circus and all that. And I kept saying, don't fucking hit the chair. And I'm not his dad, but I was just the one sitting next to him, and I was harping on, quit it. And it was sometimes he'd see something and leg would swing and he'd tap the chair, and I was so on his ass that the people in front of me turned around and said, it's okay, and that was a really nice thing. But then I have to think about people who over apologize. Was it that someone in there when they were little just made them more concerned about quote unquote others' comfort than their own? And I'm not saying you should let your kids run rampant, but I know that if I have a tendency to think I'm wrong all the time, that's a neuroses maybe that was implanted. And all I'm saying is, say you're sorry when you do something fucked up, and stand your ground when you didn't. And and also if you made a mistake and someone's flipping you the bird, that's the most annoying, right? You did something a little fucked up in traffic, or you took too long doing a K turn, and then people are like, and you go like this and you smile, and they want to, that's probably, and you got to be careful. And that's the fucked up thing about the internet and the world we live in and video cameras before the internet is you always hear these horror stories of road rage. And so people might let more slide, or they act tougher than, my thing is, I guess maybe it's from being in New York, is things get handled. And so that in a twisted way, you keep your manners on the streets, quote unquote, not that I'm much of a street guy, but you keep your manners on the street because you don't know how somebody else is going to handle it. And so most of the infractions in the world are started because someone lost their manners, in my estimation. So anyway, I think I've beaten a dead horse and told two boring anecdotes long enough. I'm going to take this energy into putting the air conditioning back on because it's hot as hell. And I've worn the cans again. And this is number 36. And this is starting to become a nice project and a nice place to go week to week. So for that, I'll say thanks, and I will sign off. This was Carl D. Session 36. Peace.